What is going on? Back for another late night takes live. And Hammer, I gotta tell you, this is the first show I think where I'm just positive Rando's not here yet. Positive Rando has not made it back from a just absolute tail whooping against Iowa State. In a game in the first 12 minutes, I thought we had it. I was like, we got this one. I can't believe it's going to happen. And then what happened. But obviously UNT, who will be joining us soon, are still dancing, feeling good about your win. Maybe surprising to some. I know you didn't think maybe you'd get this far, but in a performance where you probably got some of the best performance of the season from dudes like Boswell to kind of carry you, which is good to see here late in the season moving through the tournament. But how'd you feel about that ball game? And we'll get to the Iowa State matchup, but how'd you feel about that ball game?
Well, I thought it was the type of performance that we've been kind of wanting to see all year, to be honest. Did a great job protecting the basketball in the first half. Only had one turnover. And they were, very aggressive on the glass, which we knew we were going to have to be. Sorry, there was a gnat flying around in here. I'm not smacking everybody in the face here. Sorry. And then getting points from someone in the backcourt not named Jacoby Gillespie is has been needed all season, but B was a real bonus. And solid game. I mean, it got a little dicey there in the second half, as it always seems to do. But never really had that stretch where we let Virginia get on a big run. We were able to kind of keep that lead for the majority of the game, and then we're able to pull away down the stretch. Defensively, I thought they were phenomenal. Even Nate Ament got invited to the block party with a swat into the third row, which was great to see. But I'll tell you, man, I'd said all season I think the Sweet 16 is the ceiling. I think that's as far as this team can go. But the way they've played the past couple games, I mean, they certainly have the making of being able to go farther. But they're going to kind of run into a little bit of a buzzsaw, I'm afraid, even with Jefferson out. I know Coach said game time decision, but I haven't seen any indication that would make me strongly feel like he's going to play. So
seeing him scooting around on that little
that didn't look promising.
Thing. No, in that big old boot, it did not.
So I've said for weeks now that Iowa State's one of the most balanced teams. Not saying they're one of the best. They do both things really well. They don't defensively. They are pretty elite. I'll be honest, but they're very balanced. They're disciplined. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They're very good rebounding offensively, especially defensive rebounding. And you have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves. And so it's going to be an incredibly challenging game, I think, for both sides. I think it's going to be just an ugly rock fight. And we have to just hope for the best.
Yeah. I was watching that game intently, and down about 4 minutes left to go in the game, they started making a run. I think they even take the lead at some point at the under 4 timeout. Y'all fight back, and then the back-to-back, I think Nate Ament turned the ball over out of bounds, plays on the travel, and then he gets it back again a couple possessions later, has to call a timeout. And then Jacoby is in there, and he throws it away off Nate Ament's hands. And I'm thinking to myself, they're going to do it again. They are going to piss this game. I'm like, we're going to have the same conversation with T and Hammer on the show of how, this game was won until it wasn't down the stretch. Now, I think you mentioned the defense really made things difficult for Virginia down the stretch. and then you made some timely shots. And I think the biggest thing was down the stretch, y'all made some free throws. I mean,
Yes.
you got sent to the line, and everybody was making the free throws to extend that game out and make it so they couldn't get it. But yeah, it was a hell of a game, and one at you lean on Rick Barnes to coach you through, and he certainly did.
Yeah, everybody not named Jalen Carey made free throws anyway. So
Yeah, and it's just he didn't. I don't know what his box score was. I don't think he was super efficient from the field. But when Nate Amint's aggressive, especially in that late in that second half, some of the shots were wild, but he was getting to the free throw line. When he's playing that way, your team's different. Like if it's going to be tough for him to play that way against Iowa State, but if he tries, you might have a chance. If he kind of shies away from the physicality, then I don't think you guys stand a chance at all.
yeah, and I think the ankle's probably got a lot to do with determining what happens because, I mean, you're an athlete. You played ball. When you've got anything dinged or you favor it, and just your natural human instinct is to protect it.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's got to be in the back of his mind that, and we've seen him since he's come back from the injury. We've seen him go down. We've seen him we saw him get his leg caught under somebody in the Virginia game. So it continues to kind of be a little bit of a distraction. It's got to be. So I think that's got something to do with it, but you can't deny the kid's heart because, he could easily be taking I'm getting ready to go into the NBA lottery. I'm going to be a top 10 pick. I don't really want to risk it, but man, he's out there diving for balls and running up and down the floor. So you just got to take your hat off to just the kind of person he is, his character, what kind of teammate he is, and just a competitor. And there was an article came out today with Rick Barnes in a press conference that said that, Nate Ament, he would play every minute if we would let him because he's just that type of competitor and wants to be on the floor. And you just can't say enough good things about just who he is as a person and what kind of teammate and competitor he is. So we, thrilled to have him. This is probably it. If he's going to be a top 10 pick, he's got to go. There's no question. Even top 15 pick, you have to do that. So I won't be upset with him at all if that's his choice. But man, it'd be nice to have him another year. But
yeah, I can't imagine. No, I can't imagine a world where he comes back. That NIL check would be massive. But I think he's done enough late in the season. We've talked about it a lot early in the season where he wasn't able to find his spot. You could tell his frame in playing at this level, it wasn't working for him. But the confidence grew, and I honestly, I criticized Barnes some because he kept going. You got a guy like Jacoby on the team, but late game situations he was going to Nate Ament. Like he was. I'm going to give Nate Ament a chance, and that probably played into some of the confidence of now you can rely on him late in game to do that. So looking long term, it seems like which is what Rick Barnes was doing, and now you got a kid who's a little banged up but confident in his play, and we'll see if he brings that to Iowa State.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys, and we can talk about this more in depth, but I think one of the keys of Tennessee being able to be efficient offensively is going to be they're going to have to get some off-ball efficiency. They're going to have to be able to set screens and get and scheme guys open for shots because Iowa State's not going to get themselves into very many mismatches. They're not going to put themselves in a position where they're giving up easy buckets or not defending. So that's another piece of the puzzle for Nate Ament is he's probably going to get banged around some in this game. So that mentality that we saw when he was driving in the lane, getting in the paint, putting the shoulder in somebody's chest and going strong up, that's the type of game that we're going to have to see out of him because they're just not going to – everything's going to be earned in this game. We saw how you guys got out to a good jump on them, and I thought, oh man, and then blink of an eye, you look up, and now they're up double digits, and just kind of having their way with with the Kentucky defense, and that was unfortunate. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you that I'm heartbroken that you lost, but at the same time, I thought it looked like that it was going to be a lot better, a lot closer game than what it ended up being. And shout out to Joshy Boy here. He asked me on our show earlier if I felt like if Kentucky had a true typical Kentucky point guard, would that have made a difference in their season? And I 100% think it would have. Not to throw necessarily any names out there, pour salt in the wound, but like a Darius Acuff, a Jeremy Fears, an Emmanuel Sharp or somebody like that could, true point guard or even a combo guard that can, with good handles. I mean, it'd been a world of difference because guard play is so critical at this point in the season, and especially when you get to the tournament. Florida's a prime example. We raved about that front court and how challenging it was going to be, and I was drinking the Gatorade all season about Florida. And what should have been a better team this year wasn't, because why? Well, they had Walter Clayton in that backcourt last year. Rando, there's not a Walter Clayton on that team.
No.
They've got good guards. They don't have elite guards.
No. And if you remember the tournament last year, the UConn game, even the championship game against Houston, like they were down and out, and Walter Clayton put on Superman cape and just shot them back in. I mean, some terrible shots, turnaround threes off rebounds. You're like, what are you doing, kid? And splash. You're like, oh my God, he is special. He went on a a tournament run that rivals dudes, all time great. Like you probably, if you go back through, I mean, at least top 10 of the tournament run that he put on as a guard to kind of save his team. Kemba Walker-esque, that's like, if you think about that UConn team, like that's what he did but you're right. They didn't have that this year. And a dude like, it's how do you say his last name? Sturts? Yeah. Sturts, I think. Yeah.
Sturts.
He just, you don't expect a guy like that to outplay Boogie Flan, but that's exactly what happened. And like you said, in tournament play, guard play is what matters, because down the stretch when it's close, that's who you're giving the ball to.
Yeah. They're the decision makers. They're the distributor, and basically quarterback, if you will, on the floor. So they're the trigger man. Everything flows through them, and that's one reason that I haven't been as high on Duke going into the tournament. And this is going to be a tough matchup for them. They don't have an elite guard, man. Their elite guard is sitting at home or sitting on the bench. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but the other boozer that nobody knows, he ain't the answer. And I just as good as Cam Boozer is, and as talented as that team is, somebody with really good guard play could be some kryptonite for them, because they can't counter it. They don't have anybody. They don't have anybody in their backcourt that can match up with an elite point guard.
Well, I mean, Caden Boozer shouldn't have to be the savior against Siena, right? Like your Siena guards, and but that's what it was, and we'll see. Duke is in for it. It's going to be some tough matchups going into the Sweet 16 games that you would expect kind of later on in the season. But the top half of the bracket is just, or I guess the top 1, 2, 3 seeds of the bracket are just that's stacked. And then you got St. John's, who's sitting at a 5, which they should not be a 5. They're going to beat some people up going into the Sweet 16 Elite 8 Final Four, if you believe in my bracket. But yeah, you mentioned Kentucky and the Iowa State game. That's the guard play, and I don't want to say the lack of talent at the guard position, but you're right, the lack of ball handling, the lack of being able to have vision and keep pace of a game, because when we were out there and it was sloppy, Yelovich was turning the ball over. We had some boneheaded turnovers, but we were still up 18-6, and we were moving the ball quick, and they were missing shots. Our defense was really applying pressure to them. The first play of the game, they ran a set and got an easy little floater at the rim, and you're like, oh, man, this is going to be the whole game. After that, everything was a tough contested fadeaway two, a very good closeout at a three, making them shoot 28-footers. And, they had 1-3 going into halftime. It was at the 12-minute mark, we made a substitution. Pope made a substitution, and he put Jasper Johnson in the game to run point. And in the minute Jasper Johnson played, he had a -9, 2 turnovers, and both of them for fast breaks. He got his pocket picked, and unfortunately, he has put that film to the, giving that film to the opponent all season long. Like, it's happened every game he comes in, he brings the ball down, he's not confident, and before he gets over half court, that thing's picked and it's going back the other way. That really gave them a run, and at that point, it seemed like Iowa State went from, hey, we know we can score the basketball and shoot threes and shoot the lights out of the gym at times, but it ain't happening right now. So we're just going to pressure the ball, and you can see everything, every screen we try to run, they didn't even care about the big that was rolling. They just pressured the guard because they knew we didn't have someone who could handle it, especially without Zell. And even I love Zell and what he did for this team and how he changed his game for Pope because we were missing a true point guard. So I got no knock on him for that, but that's not his natural position. So he's not even super comfortable when you put a lot of pressure on him. I mentioned this when Jay and I did the Rando recap. There were times where the 45-degree pass off the roll was wide open, or the swing pass across to the opposite corner for a three was wide open. It just the eyes were down, and they were worried about the pressure, not what was actually open, and we couldn't run any offense from there. And when you had a half that we had where we were up 12 and we felt like we were pretty much dominating the majority of that first half, when they hit that three to go into halftime and you're down a point after the way you played, they talked about it in the post game. The locker room was still confident. Hey, we can still get this thing, but that's got to be a gut punch to be like, man, we probably gave them our best effort in this first half, and we're still losing by a point.
Yeah, and I think that's 100% correct. I think they felt like, man, we played as good of a stretch of basketball as we played all season, and we threw everything but the kitchen sink, and we're still down. So that had to really be deflating, and tough to come out, and it showed. I mean, right? I mean, it showed on the floor. It showed on the scoreboard that I won't say they quit or they gave up. I don't believe that to be true, but I think the mindset was different. They went from, hey, we can beat these guys, to I don't know if we can beat these guys.
And Ortega kept us in the ball game. It would get to 10, and then he would score, get it back to 6 or 8. At one point, it got to 12, and we were doing the live watch, and we pretty much we still had some hope, but man, like we don't see this team going on a 12-point run at any point and getting stops and scoring to really get back in this ball game.
Yeah. And not against a team like that. I mean, because that's a very disciplined, well-coached. They execute well. That's just not a team you can get down double digits and feel very good about coming back.
Yeah, and then once Ortega stopped making tough shots and they really pressured him. I will say, though, I was disappointed, and I said this on the show. There were too many times with under 5 to go, and I know it was a 20-point game, and the way the season had gone, there's probably a lot of weight on this team, and it probably was just too much at that time. But Otega Owe is going after getting steals, still doing breakaway dunks, and then running back with his hands up, like begging and pleading the team, like, give me something. Give me something. Yeah. And a lot of that team, we're kind of just, heads down, like, damn, we were getting our ass kicked and the season's over. And I've never been in that situation before, so I understand it's probably tough. But I was disappointed in the team. Like, man, we didn't run through the tape. Like we at least could have tried to fight, knowing that it was the end of the season. But that's not what happened. Instead, they just ran us right off that court, right into the locker room, into the postseason.
Yeah, no, and unfortunately for you and Big Blue Nation, that's exactly what happened. You pretty much second half just got shown the door.
Yep.
So
what's up, T?
What's going on, man?
We were just you heard me boo-hooing over here about the game.
Yeah, so please feel free to talk more about how your season ended. I was quite enjoying that.
Oh, man, it is not fun to be sitting here the couple days before the Sweet 16 already talking about how we're gonna hit the portal and fix the broken roster from last year and who's gonna come back. And it's like, golly, man, this is not where it's supposed to be. You know, last year when after every season, and it's happened too often over the last 6 years, after the tournament, all the Kentucky stuff kind of goes to the back of the closet. I have my ceremonial put away of the Big Blue gear for a little bit. I need some time, I need some time away from it because I'm emotional. Last year, I put it away with some excitement, like, hey, Sweet 16, Pope's first year. Yeah, it sucks we lost to Tennessee, but like good year. This year, I was right back to the last 5 years of Cal, hanging it up, just angry. Just this sucks. This stuff, basketball's stupid. I hate the tournament. All of that. I was just all emotional. But
well, I have hated your joy so many times this year, so I am going to celebrate in the wallowing of your sorrows right now. I'm gonna just tell you though, and this isn't you in particular, but just Kentucky fan. You celebrated the win over Purdue too heavily, and y'all celebrated Oweh hitting that halftime shot, winning a game in the round of 64 too heavily. Like, obviously, particularly a tournament game, you do celebrate it, but the celebrations were too akin of that being an Elite Eight type game. And the game against Purdue was too akin to being some pivotal SEC title breaking type game or whatever.
The preseason number one team, dude.
I understand that. And it was also an exhibition game. So
but you did have Colin Chandler's dunk on that Nicholls State kid, though.
And you celebrated a dunk against a 16 dude from Nicholls State too much. Now, for real, that's indicative of the bar moving at Kentucky. Whether or not Kentucky fans want to admit it or not, I don't feel like in the heyday of John Wall and AD and all those guys, that stuff is not getting celebrated that heavily. It gets celebrated because it should, but not to that level. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean the Harrison
of the bar shifting.
Yeah, and the Harrison shots on a 8C team, those were later in the tournament. Those were celebrated. I mean, we beat some good teams to get there. I mean, what it is, it's proof of the just lack of success and the PTSD of just non-existent tournament success.
That's what I mean by the bar shifting. And but it's interesting because like the year will start and it's Final Four, Banner 9, like kind of the typical stuff. But then you look at what actually gets celebrated, and that's not the same as our expectation is. I don't know. It's kind of twofold. Like, it's spoken that the expectation is Banner 9, Final Four, so on and so forth. But then the actions are showing like, hey, we'll take a preseason exhibition game, or
well, I think that
type thing.
The preseason exhibition game win, the preseason exhibition game win was, we were most people's Final Four pick. Like, the roster, everybody was, especially once JQ got back from the injury, like there's a lot of people high on this team. And then the $22 million roster BS came out. Beating Purdue, number one preseason exhibition, I get it, but beating them kind of like it solidified everybody's thoughts. Like, we didn't know, is this team actually going to click, whatever, like, do we have a squad? And then everybody saw us win and we're like, we see the proof right there. It's right there. We just did it. I know. But I'm saying, like, when you go out there and you win the game, and I mean, I don't think Purdue showed up not trying to win, but it definitely wasn't a tournament. Your season is over type game. So I give you that. But then if you go back and look, we go the second exhibition game, lose to Georgetown, and everybody was like, "Oh, this team might suck." It's like we didn't know. Now Georgetown ended up being a decent squad this year, but yeah, we go in a home exhibition game against Georgetown and you lose, and then it had just ebbed and flowed from there. And I think the excitement from that game against Santa Clara was we just have to fight and claw in that survive and advance. Like mantra was legit for us of like we just have to hope we can have miracle after miracle to try to get to what the ceiling I thought was the Elite Eight if everything went right, and it went far from right. And now we got to rebuild, and we will see what happens. But yeah, it's. I don't think I think you put it right. The expectation I don't think has changed. We're still pissed off. But yeah, I think we're definitely celebrating these lower level wins a lot harder than we used to. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's an actions and words things, right? Like the words is still the Final Four and all that. And I think there is a baseline expectation of that, just like, hey, we're Kentucky, so we're supposed to expect that. But the last decade or so is kind of adjusted in real life reactions. And, I'm sorry, go ahead, Hammer.
No, I was just going to say, because, you look at, I'll just refer to it as a non-blue blood fan base. Before NIL, Sweet 16 was considered a great season, and Elite Eight even more so. And now with the NIL age, and you combine that with a blue blood school, Sweet 16 is kind of like the price of entry. Like nobody celebrates that anymore. And I'm like, why would you not?
Yeah.
It's because it's championship or bust, because we're seeing 18, 19, 20-year-old kids making $3, $4, $5+ million a year.
But that's a really good point
to bring us a championship. So
yeah,
Sweet 16, sorry, it's not good enough. And I'm
to that point, we haven't really seen immediate NIL success in basketball like we have in football, right? Like Indiana comes in and in 2 years, thanks to NIL, they turn around and win a natty. We haven't really seen that in basketball yet, right? Where the natty is coming from someone unexpected, right? Like UConn's been winning. It's not like it's not like Santa Clara is coming in and winning, or like Ole Miss is coming in and winning, or somebody who just comes out of left field. Like it's happened in football, but it almost feels like there's been some osmosis coming over from football. And because money is involved, like you said, Sweet 16 is no longer celebrated as success.
Yeah, and even Florida last year, those were recruits for the most part that they won that championship with. So, yeah. 100%. I think more than likely this year's champion is probably going to have a few more of the NIL pieces than we've seen, and it'll probably continue to be that way as it goes, because unless you just catch lightning in a bottle and get a couple of these hot shot freshmen, you get it while they're there. You're starting over again every year with, high school recruits don't excite me as much as they used to, for that very reason, is because, we'll just go get somebody out of the portal.
Yeah, and there's very few that are going to be able to come in and have like major impact. And
immediate impact, right.
And the ones that do, if you spend too much on, i.e. AJ DeBanza, there's nothing around him. But you better score 45 or you're going to lose.
Well, that's like, I don't know if you remember, Rutgers last year had a couple guys. Yeah. I think they're both are guards. Paid just a boatload of money to, and individually, they had good numbers. But Rutgers didn't do anything did they make the tournament? I don't think they made the tournament last year.
Yeah, so you kind of just have to decide where you're at as a program, I guess, because we had a debate on Twitter a couple of days ago about if DeBanza was a good investment for BYU. I argue that it was, because that's the most in the limelight BYU has been since Jimmer, if not more.
Fact.
Right? Jimmer had a ton of eyes on BYU, and then AJ brought everybody in. So you made your $7 million back because of the viewership that he brought. I don't know if you truly plan to contend for a title or not at BYU, but it certainly upped this. The Eye of Sauron was big time on BYU. So to me, it was a worthwhile investment, at least monetarily. But yeah,
for the university, I wonder if the donors and the people paying for AJ feel the same way, right? The fans don't feel the same way, and it puts a lot of pressure on the coach. But I think they expect to get, because like boosters want to be able to pay money and then sit sidelines or in the box of a Sweet 16. Like they want to be able to get all the wine and dine stuff too for late, or they want to at least see wins. And BYU was okay in against. I actually think they had a losing record against top 25 teams. So I don't know. I've never had that much money. I don't know what they feel like. Maybe that's like yes, I just want the ESPN. I want the big eyes, the college game days out here, and that's what we're getting. We see, but also puts a lot of pressure, on the coach. And we saw it last year. I said at the beginning of the season, the reason why I hated this narrative that Pope should have answered just like he did at the end of the season, where he was like, "Hey, we get a bunch of these numbers that aren't accurate. You shouldn't listen to what you hear." No, he kind of played into it because it was fun and whatnot at the beginning of the season when we thought we were going to a Final Four with a $22 million roster. You remember last year, Shire had the most expensive roster in college basketball and a number 1 overall draft pick and couldn't get it done. And even though they went pretty far in the tournament, everybody roasted his tail and roasted Duke because they couldn't get it done with all that talent. You had Knipple and Flag and a bunch of money supporting that team, couldn't get it done. And I was like, man, it's the same narrative is going to be on Kentucky. It was, except worse, because we didn't have a great regular season and we didn't even make it out of the first weekend. So now it just piles on, and that's when you get these things out there on the internet are like, well, now this donor is going to pull out and not give any money because they wouldn't have success, and you don't even know how much is true. But and Hammer, to your point, I think this money that trickles in, everybody who's paying money for whoever on the roster or whatever, couple players that you might get, they put money because they think it's going to equal wins. And they almost have an expectation, whether or not it's realistic, of I'm paying money so we can get a deep postseason run. Sweet 16, that should just be automatic. And that's just not how it works. It is March Madness for a reason.
Yeah, well, and then you got all these mental midgets out there that your big superstar making $4 or $5 million for the season has an off game or doesn't play well, and then these jackwagons come on there and talk about how it's a horrible investment. We wasted money, and they're just tearing the kid down. And I'm like, why don't y'all just find somebody that will love you enough to take your damn phone away from you so you can't be stupid on the internet?
Yeah.
Because that just drives and breeds more and more of that. It's toxic. And then, I mean, I donate to the fund, but I'm not a donor, okay? I'm nowhere – I can't even sniff a donor's wallet, right? But I don't sit there and just lament and get 9 kinds of tore up because somebody has an off game or we don't do something that we, would expect or hope. It's all a risk. It's all a gamble. You just like with high school recruits, you don't know what they're going to do, the transition. We saw it with Nate Ament. We thought, man, T and I talked about it offline and tweeted back and forth about he's going to have to figure it out. He's going to be able to, there's some things he's going to have to do. And then all of a sudden light comes on, Nate goes out and drops 29 points. So there's very few guys that immediately step on the floor and go, 36-5 in a stat line. It takes time, and people don't want to be patient. They don't want to give an opportunity for a reload of sorts. They sure as hell don't want to be patient for a rebuild.
Yeah.
Instant success, instant gratification, and one loss or one off game or whatever, and it's, torches and pitchfork time. And it's ridiculous. You people are stupid.
Yeah. And then just like the lack of taking into account extenuating circumstances as well. I'll switch over to football, right? But people were freaking out on Jermon McCoy all year. And I was like, this dude just tore his ACL in December, man. Like,
how he shouldn't. We shouldn't expect him to play.
Right. And that's what I kept trying to say. I was like, there was nothing from when he played the previous season to indicate that he is not trying to be out there giving us his best effort. A torn ACL, particularly at the cornerback position where you do more cutting and change of direction and all that than anything. But because he was an All-American, preseason All-American, we invested a lot, oh, he's cheating us and all this and that. Like, just pay attention to what the circumstance is. To your point with Mint, he's 100 and what Randall brought up before the season, he's 175 pounds.
Yep.
At 6'10", give him some time to figure out the physicality. And he did, like, as special as this freshman class is, it's insanely rare that people can come in and have this kind of impact. And then even when they do, it's still really, really hard to carry a team all the way. There's very few Carmelo Anthonys in the world, right? Cooper Flagg, #1 pick, along with Con Knipple, #4 pick, and they still couldn't take Duke all the way, to Rando's point. So, yeah, you're right. Just people don't take any of that stuff into consideration. It's just, we're paying you money, go average 40 points, 17 assists, and 33 rebounds, and do it every game.
Yeah, and I got news for you, folks. There's 365 Division I men's basketball teams. That's how many is going to win the national championship this year. So you need to chill. And I'll tell you this, too. The coaches at Texas Tech in all sports, they better be ready to win big, because as much money as they're pumping into their athletic program with NIL, if they're not competing for a national championship year in and year out, you're going to see a coaching carousel on full tilt.
Yeah.
And
but why are we sounding so grumpy? We're still in it. So let's save our grumpness.
I'm the get off my lawn guy of the show, right? So I can be grumpy all the time.
Well, I'm hoping maybe a grumpy volleyball audience from this weekend.
Man, that's just wrong. You feel the hate, T?
That's
Lindsay asked me, she goes, "Why are you watching this? Why are you watching this Tennessee game? Isn't the tournament over?" I said, "For us, but why watch Tennessee game?" I said, "Because I cannot come on this show Wednesday with them winning and us losing." And guess what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. And let me say something real quick. Coach Evans, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Coach Evans knows ball.
Coach Evans knows
putting
ball.
That
knows ball.
Flooring filth out there on Twitter. I hope this is the year for Tennessee. What?
That's a good man right there. That's just a good human being.
What is he? This needs to get sent out to 1027 out there in Owensboro and let the fan base out there hear this blasphemy.
That was one of the greatest tweets that's ever crossed Twitter.
Yeah.
I was disgusted.
Great man.
I was like, I cannot believe. Gross.
I'm going to donate to Coach Evans NIL.
That's right. That's right.
For that.
And I had just got done voting for 1027 for best radio station in like Kentucky or whatever. I was like,
I voted for it. I voted for it as well, and I clearly made the right decision.
I want to take my vote back. I don't even know another radio station. I'm gonna find one.
That's the correct decision. You voted correctly.
Yeah, without question.
That's a man who knows what he's talking about right there.
I don't like it one bit. All right, but yeah. So I'll talk Kentucky offseason to close it out, but I'll let you guys have the floor and talk in depth. Iowa State, Tennessee, your thoughts on how you get the job done, if you can get the job done, and let you celebrate your switch fucking words.
Yeah, it's probably too hard for you to say because you're not.
See, he hadn't been there so long. You got how to pronounce it.
You were just there last week.
He's not
last year. I mean, this sucks.
How'd that go?
Talk about the game. I don't want to hear y'all anymore.
Not familiar. So I will mention, I'm curious what you think, Hammer. I tend to listen to the Animal on my way into work, and I'm 2 hours behind Knoxville, so it's already Eric Ainge and Brian Rice usually when I'm going in. And then sometime on the way to the gym at lunch, I'll catch Josh and Swain. And then on the way home from work, I'll get a little bit of Tyler and Will. So what they were talking about is their biggest concern is that Jacoby Gillespie is shooting like 20% better than his season average from 3, and Tennessee is shooting like 11% better. So their expectation or concern is that we will return, kind of back down to our averages and not shoot as well as we had been, which obviously depletes our offensive output pretty significantly, which we're not going to win without. Now, they did mention that there's the possibility of, hey, maybe we're just getting hot at the right time. This isn't something that needs to sustain for a whole season. We just need it for a couple weeks. So can we do it? But that's their biggest concern. What do you think about kind of returning to the averages?
Well, I don't think we can go into this game expecting Bishop Boswell to go, 4 or 5 or whatever it was from 3. And I mean, let's face it, I've said it for several weeks now. This is one of the most balanced teams in college basketball, both offensive and defensive efficiencies. They're disciplined. You won't get them in many mismatches. You won't force a whole lot of turnovers. They don't make a lot of mistakes. You have to beat them. They won't beat themselves for you. And so I expect a little bit of a regression in scoring. And if you look at, if you want to look at the odds and the numbers, I mean, this total's sitting at 138.5. So, you're talking
it's low scoring.
70. Yeah. You're talking about a low scoring game out of the gate. So the expectation is it's going to be lower scoring. So I don't necessarily consider that to be as much of a concern as I do us regressing back to old form in other areas, i.e. turnovers, free throws, rebounding, second chance points. Those are the things I'm concerned about regressing. I expect the scoring to be a little bit throttled. We can't go in there and have 15 turnovers and get out rebounded and not create and score off of turnovers and second chance points, because Iowa State's not going to turn the ball over very much. We're going to have to force turnovers. They will not throw it out of bounds on an inbounds. They won't run up and down the baseline on an inbound where it wasn't a made shot. Not to call out negative, but let's face it, both of those were pretty boneheaded.
They were, and what I said is,
not going to do that.
Yeah, we got away with it. If anybody will learn from mistakes, though, it's him, right? So
I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you there, and you could even tell the way he reacted was like, oh, man, it was totally. He just had a moment.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be another heavyweight fight. They're going to stand there and throw rocks at each other. Very similar to what I think Iowa Nebraska is going to be. It's going to be a war. It's going to be physical.
Can I get a shout out about my Nebraska take for a second? No? Okay, never mind. Continue.
So
this show sucks.
I love that we were in sync on that, Hammer.
Yeah. Go ahead. You already interrupted us, so go ahead.
I just said, watch out for them. I said, I think they can do something. They can go on a run. But
yeah, no, you did. You called them, and
good job, Brando.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Continue.
And a shout out to Nebraska for putting out Peabody, putting them out of Iowa and Nebraska.
The Midwest
God bless
boys,
you both.
they are hooking
you saved not only basketball fans, you saved humanity from the abomination that is Peabody and Florida basketball. Thank you.
Yeah,
we owe you a debt of gratitude.
Get them out of here. Yeah, I don't know that I'm as concerned about this shooting regression, because I think we're pretty judicious with our shot selection, particularly from 3. Like, so even though we were hitting at a better clip and all that, we still only shot 19. Right. So
yeah. And we didn't shoot a lot of contested threes. They were good looks for the most part.
That's what I'm saying. I think we're judicious about our shot selection. So if we're continuing to shoot when they're good looks, it's a good percentage shot. It's a good shot. If the percentage does come down, if it's a good shot, we can't be mad with it. So I don't know that I'm as concerned about it, because I do like our shot selection generally. And that's why Boswell shot so many. We've been kind of lamenting that all year because his percentage has been high, but he only shoots two threes a game or something. He fired off 9 of them because he was getting good looks and his percentage held. So he has actually shown consistency with that percentage, just not the volume. And if they're going to give him the opportunity to get the looks, then he can shoot it. So I'm not as concerned with that as they are. I'm seeing that Jefferson, the All-American from Iowa State, is like a game time decision. He'll probably play.
You think so?
Probably. But I think he's going to be I think he'll be fairly limited. I mean, we saw it happen with Nate, and Nate had more rest, I believe, than Jefferson has had. And they both had.
I'd be surprised if he played, just because, I mean, the last time I saw him, he was on a little scooter with the boot, couldn't even put weight on it. But,
yeah.
I mean, maybe a week goes by. And I think it'd be impressive if he does play. Maybe he's just one of those dudes. But yeah,
but even if he does, he's going to be impacted, right?
Yeah,
so
limited.
But if he does, let's just say he does, and let's say he's obviously he won't be 100%, but let's say he's a magician and now he's 70-75%. He's pretty tall, right? Is he like 6'8"?
6'9", 6'9", yeah.
Yeah, and then they got the European dude that's tall who can shoot as well. So I'm just trying to think of what are our matches. Do they put Felix on the European dude and Nate on Jefferson? Is that?
I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
we gotta have a. Felix is the only athletic enough big to guard Lurch.
Yeah. And then maybe they spell him a little with Amari Evans, who's tall and physical. And if the dude just wants to live out on the perimeter, then maybe you can do that.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the turnovers. So we did well against Virginia. We were 2-1 assist to turnover, 20-10. What I think has helped is as the season has progressed, Boswell has gotten more confident with the ball in his hand, dribbling it. He's not a Gainey level backup point guard to Zakai, but it at least lets us run some sets for Jacoby off the ball. And Boswell feels comfortable enough bringing the ball up even under some pressure to maybe do it 3 times in a row or something. So I like that we have another ball handler a little bit now. Nate can bring it up sometimes. He's a lot stronger with the ball now than he was at the beginning of the season. So I feel a little bit better about that. But honestly, that's probably been the biggest weakness that I've seen in Barnes' entire tenure here is like press breaking. We have always been bad at it. It doesn't matter Zakai, Kenny Chandler, like unless it was a one-man break, we just wouldn't move and position people in the right direction. So I do have a little bit of concern with the type of defensive pressure that Iowa State plays, but I at least appreciate that we got some guys a little more confident with the ball in their hand than they were at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and I think the I won't say breakout game, but the showing up game for Boswell came at a perfect time because now Iowa State has on film, recent film.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to account for this guy. So they're not going to be able to just come out there and double team Gillespie the way that they sometimes have a tendency to do, run a trap. They're not going to be able to – and I'll say they won't do it at all, but they're not going to be able to just rely on that because now, okay, we got to account for this guy because he can shoot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I mean, Iowa State probably gets the lean, but I think the game is doable for us. It is gettable.
Yeah, it's a winnable game for sure.
Yeah,
just there's going to have to be a lot that goes right.
Yeah,
I don't know what practice looks like, but I if I'm a Tennessee fan, Jacoby needs to have very limited minutes because he's going to have to play 38, 40 minutes of that ball game.
He'll play the whole game. Yeah,
he will have to play the whole game. And maybe you guys, I haven't paid attention to it enough, but I would be very nervous putting that ball in anybody else but Jacoby's hands coming up the way they press, and especially if you want to run some offense, they can make it to where you have 20 seconds to actually get into a set. Very, very, very easily the way they pressure you in their little simulated press. Or pressure full court, and then they will just at times jump you once you get over half court. And I think Jacoby can do that. I just don't know if Boswell or Berg can handle that sort of pressure without turning the ball over or without putting you guys in a bad spot.
It'll be a problem
right now. Berg can.
Yeah, it'll be a problem, but I because honestly, just historically, again, pressure has been a problem for Rick Barnes teams. But I think we'll be stronger at being able to deal with it than we were earlier in the season. We're still not there, and it is going to be a problem. But I think we can at least find a way to limp through a little bit, as opposed to it just completely decimating us. Particularly because of Boswell, he can handle the ball better than maybe even he realizes. He's strong. He dribbles low to the ground. He's not flashy or anything, but he's big enough to kind of, fend people off from taking it from him. So I think as long as he maintains his confidence, it'll be Jacoby, 95% of the time. But as long as he maintains his confidence, then maybe we can limp through another 5%.
Yeah.
If they're not doing a full 3/4 court press, trying to trap, really pressure the ball, they're just, making it difficult to walk the ball up the court. If they're depending on who they have matched up, it might be, if it's not Jacoby, give it to Nate, because he can handle the rock pretty well. If you have another 4 playing him on defense, you're not going to expect him to put enough pressure on Nate to pick his pocket. So let him get it to Jacoby off the ball, and then let him run the offense.
Yeah, he also is more confident and stronger with the ball than he was at the start of the year. Jimmy Dykes was lamenting it game after game after game. He's like, Nate, you're 6'10", 6'11". Stop standing straight up when you dribble. So Nate now gets lower. He's gained 17 pounds or whatever it is. So he also can dribble the ball up. So that's what I'm saying. It'll be Jacoby 93 to 95% of the time. But I think the other 5 to 7% between Boswell and Amit, and probably 1 or 2 plays with Berg, will at least limp through. I think our turnovers will go up from the Virginia game, but just let's just try not to get crazy with it.
Yeah, and I think Tennessee has an advantage from an athleticism standpoint. It's just this Iowa State team's kind of a machine. They're very, very methodical. They're very deliberate, and athleticism can only get you so far. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to execute, and that's where I feel like Iowa State has an advantage. So if we can weather the storm, protect the basketball, not go brain dead for periods of time, then I think Tennessee can be there at the end. I think it's going to be close. I actually have Tennessee in the points, and I don't know that I think we can win this game. I'll leave it at that. I think Tennessee can win this game.
Well, and without
Jimmy, what's the spread?
It's down to 3.5. I got it at 4.5.
That's close. Okay.
Yeah.
What are you saying, T?
Without Jefferson, they have to be a whole lot more of a system team.
Yeah.
Right. And just like I was saying against Virginia, even though it was close, that is what we're best at, is playing against a system. That's what we're best at defensively, is playing against a system. Not just, hey, one person just go crazy and just beat us because we can't stop you, when it's more designed for the system and everybody to eat, and you got one person who can shoot the best with Jefferson or whatnot. I think that bodes well for us playing against them, as opposed to Jefferson being healthy and just going crazy.
Very much so.
So we shall see. I'm super nervous for sure, but I'm at least cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I'm with you. And quite frankly, Sweet 16, again, I thought was probably this team stealing. I hope they prove me wrong. But if we go out here, we're going out to a really good team, and not losing to a 14 or a 15 seed. So
I am curious to see, obviously Tennessee State, you can say similar things about Kentucky because of their lack of true point guard / ball handler, and it's been a problem all season.
Mm-hmm.
They had 18 turnovers against Tennessee State, I believe, 16 or 18, and then they caused 20 for us. So I'm curious to see if that's just what they do and they can get you guys to 15 plus turnovers as well, or if it was just their defense along with just lesser talent and lesser guard play is what caused that. So I think that's the big thing. You can keep it under 12, then you got a shot. You start getting over that 12 mark, getting into 15, and it's going to be tough, especially the way they can shoot.
Yeah, and that's pretty much verbatim. What I said earlier is, if we turn it over 15 plus, we're probably not winning that game.
Which is their average.
We won't get enough, and because we won't get enough possessions to win that game.
Yeah,
and that's the concern.
15.4 is their average per game this year, which ranks 4th nationally. So it's a problem.
That's the magic number, 15.
Yeah. So stay under 15, which, I mean, we're probably not going to get 30 assists. So we're probably not looking at a 2-to-1 assist to turnover, but yeah, let's stay under 15 on the turnovers.
Yeah. And
Joshy boy, this is no knock. If you think 10 turnovers is the number, you can go ahead and count this as a loss, because I think 10 turnovers is going to happen. And unfortunately, Tennessee is known to have some what the hell moments in games. And I think 10 is, you can go ahead and book. If there's a line for 9.5, you can go ahead and take the over, because I think 10 is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's just the nature of the opponent. They're probably going to get that versus pretty much anybody. So you just have to mitigate the damage. But if it gets to 15, that's going to start limiting our quality possessions, and we're not going to have very much chance if that's the case.
Yeah, well, we shall see. I think we are in for some really good Sweet 16 matchups, which is good. I think the way that the draw stacked is we have some really good games, even with some of the lower seeds winning. They're playing in style of play. Style makes fights, and we're going to have some really good games this weekend, which is nice to see. I won't watch them with any sort of pleasure at all, but we'll get good games. Kentucky's offseason started this weekend, which is unfortunate for me. And Selena said she has homework and couldn't get on the show. I'm going to call BS on that one. I think she's just not ready to talk about it yet. But
that was coach speak.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of coach speak, Pope came on in his kind of his Monday show season wrap up with Tom Leach, and some people liked it, some people didn't. I liked it. I liked that he kind of stood up for himself. He talked about, hey, go look at Kentucky's last 4 years compared to my first 2 years and the win percentage and who we've played and the way the SEC has changed. I think he said the second toughest strength of schedule in a 2-year period in college basketball. Maybe it was at Kentucky. I thought he said college basketball, but he kind of stacked up and he was just like, listen, we've only played so many games. It was like 5 games of the full roster over his 2 years here, which everybody plays injured, but he just was like laying things out. And I'm like, all right, Pope, we haven't seen him yet kind of, put his cojones out there on the table and be like, listen, I'm a good coach. I'm dealing with some stuff right now, but I can figure this out. He talked with some confidence. I liked it. Some of BBN did as well. Some of them was like, hey, guess what? You can compare Cal's last 4 years, but why don't you compare Cal's first 4 years at Kentucky? And I think that's a fair argument too, even though the SEC was much different landscape then as it was or as it is now. And even there was numbers put out there of Kentucky in Cal's first 10 years, we played 13 ranked opponents. I hope we get these numbers right. In Pope's first 2 years, we've already played 12. So the landscape has changed. Now, that being said, going back to when T just came on the show of like, don't change the standard, right? Like, if you're Kentucky, win them damn ball games. Doesn't matter who you're playing, win the games. And I agree with that. But my point is, I do think Pope has the ability. I think he has the basketball IQ. I think he's got the mindset to win and be a capable coach at Kentucky. This season, next one, is a make or break year. Year 3 is make or break for Mark Pope. which means this offseason is make or break. We don't know yet really who's coming back. We know Braden Hawthorne announced he's coming back. Reese Potter, who was our red shirt power forward, is coming back. Jalen Lowe's expected to come back. Malachi Marino, I expect to come back. BG looks like he is going to be leaving, possibly going to SMU to follow Hart.
Was Lowe was the guy who was supposed to be your point guard who got hurt, right?
Yeah, got hurt at Madness and tore up his shoulder. He had said earlier in the season, just a few weeks ago, like the plan was always to come back. He did an interview with his mom, and now there's a bunch of scuttlebutt saying like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know why they would put that out in an article and then change their mind. I mean, things happen. Who knows? But it's not like he put a lot out there and he's coming off injury. And I think we've seen enough this, with this season of you invest a lot of money in a dude coming off injury, you probably not going to get that return on investment, right? So I don't see him going anywhere and making more money, maybe going somewhere and getting more playing time. But I think you got to find a way to get J-Lo back. When he knows the system, he is a left-handed, shifty point guard, streaky shooter, but he's capable of facilitating the offense. I don't think he's got to be point guard one. Like, I don't think he has to be the starter. If you go find someone to come over him and compete, then J-Lo just has to live with that. But I think you do got to find a way to bring him back. I thought Jasper was –
It's interesting to me how much like BBN was beating up Mark Pope about roster construction and stuff, but like he had a point guard and the point guard got injured and missed. It's just not like he built the roster with no point guard. And I feel like people tend to kind of forget that. And then even last year you had Lamont Butler, but obviously he's fighting through all year and all that. So I'm kind of with you that the standard can't change, but you got to take the extenuating circumstances into account. Like, we still want results, but let's not just act like he's some incompetent, non-roster building type dude. He brought in, I think, a good conglomeration of people and injuries and all that kind of stuff. And, you got Denzel Aberdeen having to go from being, I think, a shooting guard naturally, right, to or maybe even a small forward or something.
I personally believe that when we got Zell, Pope showed him tape of Jackson Robinson and was like, hey, you see what Jackson Robinson did at the 3? That can be you. Like Otega at the 2, you at the 3, and you're going to get a bunch of minutes. You're going to be able to jack up shots and do whatever you want, right? And then all of a sudden, before season starts, hey, bruv, how you feel about playing point guard?
Yeah,
it's like,
and you can see from his game style that jacking up shots is him, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not here interested in defending Kentucky, but just trying to look at it from a pragmatic standpoint. I just don't think it's some kind of Pope incompetence. So yeah, year 3 is still going to be make or break, but I almost feel like that's unfair because he hadn't really had a crack at it.
And last year you had unfortunately Lamont Butler and Kirk Creasy go down. So like Pope had a backup plan. He had a backup point guard. His problem with the construction this year is when Caden Lewis decommitted and went to Nova. I don't know if you know the story with his pops and all the stuff that went down with that. Okay, so Caden Lewis was actually first recruited by Tennessee, and Rick Barnes was his first like Power 4 offer. We got in there. We got him to commit to Kentucky. 4-star recruit, I believe. His pops had a non-for-profit. It ended up being that he was funneling money out of that thing, and he got indicted, and I think he got sentenced to 2.5 years. I don't know how much he spent, but Caden decommitted, and a lot of it was I think he got offered more money, and he got to go closer to DC, which is where his pops was. So it made sense. The problem is we went and swung a big bat to get dudes like Dent that went to UCLA, or Pierre who went to SMU, or Wilkerson who went to Indiana. We went and tried to find someone else while also waiting to see if Otega was coming back and how much money we had to pay him, and we missed on all those, right? Pope was not able to get another point guard. So Jalen Lowe was it, and then he gets hurt, and then the whole construction of the roster and how he envisioned the offense, it just went to shit. And unfortunately, There were times he could figure it out against certain opponents, and there was times he couldn't figure it out. And when he couldn't figure it out, it was real, real ugly, like Michigan State and Gonzaga and Iowa State. But he also had other things like no one in the moment when it was said that JQ was committing to Kentucky, even off the ACL, not a single person that I saw out there on X was like, whoa, Pope, you're spending money on a dude coming off the ACL. It was, this kid is 17, ACL injuries aren't what they used to be, and he's a lottery pick. Blah, blah, yeah, blah. Good job, Demon Pope. You got the guy, right? Everybody. Now, it didn't work out, and we will find out very soon as the draft process starts if it was legit knee injury kept him out, or if it was a Michael Brown, my back hurts a little bit, and I'm going to say preserve my draft stock. We're going to find out soon, because if he's out there jumping up, hitting the top of that peg and whatnot with no issues, all right, dude, he looks pretty good, right? So we'll see. But yeah, there was a gamble there, and it didn't pay off. Now, again, that's how gambling works, right, Hammer? Sometimes you throw it down and you expect it to hit, and it doesn't always hit. So this year in the offseason, Pope gets Keegan Brown back, hired him in as a guy who can negotiate NIL. He's very good when it comes to talent evaluation. And, Jason Hart leaves, but Jason Hart was a guy who he got a lot of dudes in the building, right? A lot of top name recruits and transfers in the building because his time or his ties to the G League. No one stayed. Like, honestly, if you go back and look, and that's no knock on Jason Hart, I think he's a good dude. I loved him on the sideline. I think he's a good coach. But he got a lot of guys to show up to Kentucky to talk. None of them stayed. They all went somewhere else. So it's like, I don't think it's a super big deal that he leaves. We get a guy that Pope's comfortable with. Hopefully this dude is also comfortable with Pope and can tell him, hey, dude, you're doing this wrong. You need to change some things. He doesn't have just another yes man on the sidelines or behind the scenes. But you got to find another point guard. Dink Pate out there from the G League. I don't care if it's a G League. If he's freaking eligible to play, go get this dude because he's an absolute bucket. You just got to find a way to really, really build this roster out. And I don't care if it's a 5-star freshman in Tyron Stokes or if it's a dude who you think fits your system in the portal. The star rating or the name on the back of the jersey means absolutely nothing to me. I just need dudes who want to play ball at a high level and want to come here and win. I need dudes like Lamont Butler and Kobe Brea and Carr and Amari. Like, none of these guys were out there and they had high transfer portal rankings, but no one looked at that roster last year and went like, hey, this is a beat Duke roster. This is a beat Gonzaga roster. This is a set records for top 15 wins. Nope, but they were just dudes who played in the system and believed in what Pope was preaching. And wanted to play at Kentucky because of the brand, right?
I think that's similar to the Lady Vols right now, right? So Kim Caldwell brought in this super dope recruiting class, but then she runs this not just McDonald's All-American, go be great type offense, right? It's a system. And so it's probably one of those things where, hey, I don't need you to go get a bunch of 5 stars. Go get 3 stars that fit your system and will play hard, and it will probably work out better for you than the worst season in Lady Vols history since I think Pat Summitt's second year or something like that. Like, sometimes the stars don't equate. Actually, oftentimes the stars don't equate to success. Find the right fit. And that's how Barnes started trying to build up the Tennessee program. Like, Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield laid the foundation, and they were not 5-star dudes, right? But
they were 3 stars.
They were 3 stars, but they laid the foundation for, this is our culture. We're going to get in the gym and get 5,000 shots up a day, or, whatever, that type of stuff. They fit the system. And so, still no Final Fours or whatever, but it's elevated Tennessee basketball significantly. So I think same with y'all. Like, hey, I don't need just all these 5 stars because I'm Kentucky. Come fit my system, play hard. Let's all play for each other. The rest of it, could work out.
Yeah, it's like
I hope it
Brooks.
doesn't, but yeah.
I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you can find a dude who fits that 4 or 5-star model, or that that player that fits your model, then you go like a mint. Like a mint. I was, oh my god, Houston. Houston, Fleming. Like that's a
sure.
stud. That's a stud, and he fits exactly what Kelvin Sampson wants to do, right?
Oh yeah,
That's
100%.
that's a perfect marriage right there. You can find that guy, then yeah, you go get him. But really, it's just one young dude on a lot of these teams that are going on and expect to get to a Final Four, and then the rest of them are either grown through recruiting and have been there a couple years, or just one or two portal gets, right? Michigan went and got one big name in Lindenberg. Arizona has dudes that have been there for a while, and they got Koa Pete and Bergs. So you don't need a roster full of them. You just need guys who have been in the system for a while, understand, like you said, T, culture, and then supplement with just here or there, right? Unfortunately, we have too many people probably leaving this offseason where you can't really just supplement. You got to go and kind of build it like he did year one. Maybe some people come back in return and want to prove themselves, but you're not getting Otega away, and I don't know how you replace him. Was he the best basketball player in the country? No. Was he one of the hardest working, like just I have the best work ethic, like care about winning ball and will put a team on his back? Yes, which is why he was preseason SEC Player of the Year, not because he had the prettiest stroke or the best handles, just because he was a guy who had a great mindset to win.
Do you have anybody who will be 3 years in? Trent Noah, maybe? Is he the only one?
Yes, year? and I think he's going. I think he's leaving.
I had seen rumor of that. Yes.
So that's kind of a battle that he won't be given any credit for. But like, as you guys talked about last year, he came in and built a roster in the 11th hour. So you didn't really have a chance to lay a foundation for this. This is how we want to run things. And then it was kind of not that he had to do it to the 11th hour, but it's still a whole new team with like two returners, Owe and Noah or something. And so that's the tough part. And that's where I think there's value in giving him a little more time, depending on what your recruiting class looks like. If he can bring some young guys in, hey, give me a year or two to lay the foundation, set our culture. And then after that year or two, then we should be where we need to be. Again, I think it's matriculating over from football. People are expecting these instant results, that Signetti got at Indiana. And I think it's even harder to do in basketball, honestly.
Yeah. So we'll see what the roster, I think the portal ends pretty much right after the championship, or I'm sorry, the portal opens pretty much right after the season ends and the championship game happens. And it's a shorter window now. So you're not going to have a lot of time. Now agents are already talking, things are already starting to get identified and where teams are going, and those conversations are being had already. But it's a very, very important offseason, both who you're bringing back. I failed to mention Mo Diabata. I think he comes back, and I think that's a guy you need on this roster. Like, you need a dude like him. Again, not the best shooter, not a lot of basketball talent, but God, he's got one hell of a motor, and he's one of those guys, like you mentioned, an Admiral Schofield or when Jalen Carey on this team wants to show up. There's just a thing about having that on a roster that you need, especially when you talk about culture and toughness and physicality. And then I think the big one to come back, if he does, which I hopefully he does, is Cam Williams. I think he really, really will be special. Right when he started getting hot is when he got hurt. I mean, he had an 8-3 game, and right after that got hurt. Right when he was starting to click and look like the Tulane Cam that we went out and got as Pope's first portal pick of last season, and he broke his foot. So we'll see who returns. We'll see who we had to go get in the portal or the G League. But, big offseason for Pope. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about – I don't know if the Bill Self rumors are true, but I do know Hubert Davis ain't coming back. So you have potentially two massive openings coming up. We know UNC is open. Who do you think fills that job? And we mentioned before a couple episodes ago that the blue blood allure just really isn't there anymore. Right. So do you see a Todd Golden? Do you see a TJO, a Dusty May? You see these big names that are getting thrown out there actually leaving their schools that they're currently having success in now to go to the pressure of a UNC?
No, the same thing's going to happen as it did with football. These dudes are going to get extensions and promotions and all that just to lock them up and keep them there. But, yeah, what's the value in me going to UNC? And right now, UNC is they're in a bad way, right? Because they're committing all this money to Bill Belichick in football, which is also not being successful and is pulling away from basketball. But they too are going to have this Final Four or bust type pressure, even though that's not where they've been for some time. Kansas would probably have more allure for me than UNC. Because they are still committing the resources needed. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Hammer? I don't think that whole blue blood appeal thing matters anymore. Who's gonna pay me? And now, like, Texas Tech can pay. They're not a blue blood, so
who's gonna pay me? Who's gonna give me the infrastructure? Right? That was Todd Golden's big thing, and that was Dan Hurley's big thing. Is like, I'm not gonna make $11 million a year like I would at Kentucky, but UConn's giving me when they're in a conference that doesn't have to worry about football. They're giving me the NIL structure that I need to be successful. Like, I don't have to ask for anything; it's right there. So that's a big part of negotiations too.
Yeah, I think it's who can pay me and who has got the pipeline to get me to the next level is the two questions they're asking for. And then tertiary and beyond is, oh, by the way, what's the school's legacy? That eventually comes into the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let me just get your guys' thoughts on this. I mentioned this earlier tonight. The Hubert Davis announcement came just hours after we learned that Billy Donovan had stated that he was possibly going to step down at the end of this season from the head coaching position of the Chicago Bulls. I thought it was awful interesting that Hubert Davis announcement came just mere hours afterwards. So that, and
the odds from those sports books out there say he's the leading guy right now too.
Well, it said it was, when I saw it earlier today, it was 8-1, and I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me. So I took it. And if you think about it, I think it's going to be tough. Even with Florida's early exit, I think Golden is going to be tough to get away. I don't know that Dusty May would leave the resources that he has to go to what's going to have to be a rebuild, even at a blue blood school like that. And
Tommy Lloyd, same way.
Tommy Lloyd, I feel, is the same way. His name has come up as well. I don't know the Iowa State coach's deal well enough to speak on that, but and I guess I am because I did. If I'm going to bet on it, I'm betting Billy Donovan because his ego is big enough to stroll into Chapel Hill. Because I'll tell you right now, don't think for a second that UNC won't shell out whatever it takes to get who they want, because they're having to sit there right now and see their most hated rival cruise through this tournament so far. They don't want to do that year in and year out. So if they want Donovan, they will make Donovan tell them no. Absolutely. Yeah. They will make him absolutely turn down a ridiculous offer. That would be who I think would be the leading candidate. Beyond that, I really don't know who would leave where they are now to go.
Why would I leave Arizona?
I don't think UNC is looking at a mid-major coach.
No, the only other name that got thrown out there from a lesser school was Vandy's coach.
Yeah, but even then, you're still coming from the SEC, right? Like, you're not coming from, Texas. Well, I guess Texas Christian is Big 12 now, but you're not coming from a Cincinnati or something like.
It ain't the Sun Belt or the Atlantic Sun,
right? And Vanderbilt has shown that they are starting to invest in their athletic program. So I don't even know how appealing it is, because what's nice about Vandy, we talked about it, there is no pressure. You're starting to get the infrastructure. So everything that you do, you're etching your name in history at your school. Like, Diego Pavia is like the best quarterback ever at Vanderbilt, better than Jay Cutler. And he really, though he was really good, he didn't accomplish a whole lot, but he's the best quarterback in history. It's kind of what I talked to you about with Nate Ament early on. Like, why go to if I know I'm one and done, why am I going to go to Duke or Kentucky or whatever, where I got to compete with Jamal Mashburn and Grant Hill and so on and so forth? Or I go to Tennessee where I, one solid season, I'm never paying for anything again when I go back to Knoxville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was another name I saw from the Plane Watchers crowd. Apparently Michael Jordan's jet landed in Chapel Hill at some point today. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now.
Well,
there's no way Michael Jordan's leaving what he's got going on with NASCAR racing. And
well, he's probably got a big say in who the coach is.
That's what I
think that's what it is he's going to go up there and say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's figure this out. Because he's not going to be happy with what's.
Oh, my God. It is going to be Billy Donovan. Because him being the Bull and Michael are tight.
Yep.
Oh, my. I'm going to be.
8-1. Better get it while you can.
I put a tweet out there. I was like, listen, Kentucky, I don't know how good of a GM he's going to be, but just offering a bunch of money to fill the GM role so he doesn't go coach on the blue blood. Because the only way that he doesn't go coach at UNC, if he's like, I just got done coaching the league with all these guys who make a shit ton more than I do. I don't want to go to college basketball where I have some players probably making just as much or if not more than I do and have to deal with the NIL structure and all. Because when he coached, it wasn't that way. They were paying players, but it was under the table. It was, hey, Joakim Noah, here's some money. Don't tell anybody about it.
Sure. 100%.
But it was, so the only way he doesn't go coach UNC if he's just like, I'm just going to take a step back, man. I don't want to.
If he just doesn't flat want it, that'd be the only reason.
The only other name on that list, I could see TJ Oskenberger going to UNC because Iowa State, if you're talking about money and allure and whatnot, sure, he's done a great job, but UNC is still 5x better than Iowa State. And you're playing the ACC. So I could see him and his buyout's not a lot. So like it wouldn't cost UNC a lot of money. So they could offer him more, annually. And that would be a good hire in my opinion for UNC. And then sleeper, let me say this just to piss the one or two Arkansas fans that might be watching. Hey, you give Cal Jordan Brand money, watch out. Now I know him and Chicken Man are real super tight, like they're best friends. But that might be a conversation of like, because you want to talk about arrogance and cockiness who can turn UNC around. Cal's that dude. I don't think he leaves Arkansas. I really don't. But the way his name hasn't been brought up surprises me.
All right,
you can't even make he's still playing argument because Iowa State's coach has entered the chat. Dusty May's name has entered the chat. So I don't think I don't think there's very much likelihood of that either.
But Bill Belichick and Calipari in the same city? Oh my goodness gracious. You talk about money in Chapel Hill, it'll just start pouring in.
That's another reason Todd Golden won't go is because Bill's already cornered the market on young girls. So
but that's also valid because he's discovered that I can get away with whatever I want to here because I won a national championship.
Yep, that's why Nate Oates won't ever leave.
Yeah, I'm not leaving my safety net here.
That's another name, but he turned down. I gotta imagine he turned down Kentucky. You probably turned down Tennessee, or I'm sorry, UNC as well. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Historically, they're probably. You could interchange them on a top 5 list from a blue blood standpoint, but right now, Kentucky's a much better job than North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in a position where they want to update their arena or they want to actually build a whole new arena. I heard this whole breakdown on them. Like they charge thousands less for their seats than Duke, but that's because they can't get people to pay Duke prices for their seats and all that. And that's where they need a new arena. But then their donor base is split. So if you do build a new arena, you're going to lose half your donors and all. Like their athletic department is the AD wants a new arena, but what do the boosters want? And so it's going to be this power struggle between the money and then the position. So like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, I think, at UNC that also dispels some of the appeal of, that blue blood status. Like it's not enough to just say, hey, UNC anymore, or hey, Kentucky, or hey, UCLA, or hey, Kansas. it's all the tangible stuff that's going to come with it.
Yeah, it's not Auburn donor dumpster fire level, but it's a lot right now going on.
Yeah, I would say the one if Kansas does come open and Bill Self does retire, ESPN put out something that he said like it was all rumors, it's not happening. So if you believe what he's saying, then it isn't.
Then it's most likely true.
Yeah, that's true. Especially right now, you got to keep that narrative until folks can't. Taylor and Kinney can't bail, right?
Exactly.
They're still in it right now for Tyron Stokes. So coach retires and all of a sudden everybody starts pulling chalks. You can't. You got to at least say, I ain't going anywhere. But I think UNC is more attractive. Just not taking into account money and NIL structure and donors and whatnot. It's just, especially a guy like Billy Donovan. I think you have to have more of an up and coming coach. Like, do you really want to come take over for Bill Self? He won a title at Kansas not too long ago. Like, legacy, been there forever. I think that's a tough way to come and follow up on. You see what Pope's dealing with right now.
I think that's actually a really, really good point. You come into UNC, you're now replacing Hubert Davis, who was not able to have success. He tried to replace Roy Williams, which he couldn't do. But now there's some buffer between Roy Williams' expectations at UNC. Now it's like, hey, would you please build us back up?
Yeah.
Kind of like Heupel, taking over. He didn't take over for Phil Fulmer. He took over for the dually
coach
Butch, and Pruitt. You come in right after Self, there's still going to be Self expectations.
Yeah, you can't follow a legend.
Yeah,
it's a no-win situation. You cannot follow a legend.
Right. You go to Bama, everyone expects you to be Nick Saban. So I think that's a really good point. If I'm taking blue blood into account, I probably, even though UNC's got some stuff to figure out, there's potentially a little more grace and leeway and flexibility at UNC because I'm replacing somebody who is not able to have success. That's a good point, Rando.
All right, y'all. We'll close it out with there. Y'all still dancing. Kentucky bounced. It's going to be a wild offseason. But we got our spring game this weekend. Kentucky football, Stein time, all the way back. All right, so shout out to a 7-win season next year. Hopefully, that's expectation putting out there right now. 7 wins.
He's got, I think, our first scrimmage tomorrow. I think that's where we're at.
So, going to see Kenny Mitchie out there slinging it. Again, shout out to Coach for that drop. That was a nice little heavy pour sports win there. We were way out in front of everybody on that one. But appreciate everybody joining on. If you don't mind reposting, sharing this thing, I will drop the YouTube link for the folks who go to bed early. They can watch tomorrow. Give your thoughts on Tennessee, Iowa State. Give your thoughts on Kentucky offseason. Who you want to see stay? Who do you want to see go? And get, your favorite portal. Wish and pray and hope they somehow land at Kentucky and we can get our money situation figured out. But before we go, like we do every show, I got the tuxedo on right now from State Line. T has the Tennessee. That one is sold out, but the dad hat, shaped kind of like the one Hammer's got, is out there. So if you scan the QR code right there, go to State Line. They're having a Kentucky drop this Friday, the Feed the Studs drop. The phrase coined by our new head ball coach is going to drop. They got 2 styles there, one blue, one camo, and then a couple of UK designs, plus the tuxedo. Go to State Line Co., all UK ball 25, and get that. And then the Heavy Pour sports merch, go to this QR code. You can get the Heavy Pour label.
Words are hard.
Words are hard.
Hold on a second. I'm going to start. Hey, and if you go to bluegrasselite.com and get the Heavy Pour sports gear, go to that QR code right there. The Border Rivals tee that Hammer has on. You can get the all UK ball stuff. We got the Otega Oway. That's a bucket shot that we celebrated too hard, according to T, is out there as well. And then we'll have some football merch that's dropping this summer. So that QR code or bluegrass-elite.com, Heavy Pour 15, and get your merch. As always, we appreciate you listening. We will catch you Saturday, most likely for a happy hour show. When do y'all play? Is it Friday?
Yeah, at 10:10 or something like that.
Latest.
Everybody's freaking out. It's the joy of being on Mountain Time. That's still going to encroach on my bedtime, but not as much as everybody else. So,
well, not for nothing. Love you, boys, but let's hope for a sad happy hour Saturday. All right. Come join me. Come join me on vacation off season. But all right, y'all. Thanks for listening. T Hammer, thanks for joining us. As always, go Cats.
Go Big Orange.
Go Vols.
Drop the music. Peace.